Hi, everybody. Today is 1,056 days, 1,056 days since Richard vanished from the barracks there at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. So let me see if I can adjust this a little bit. Yeah, that helps. Um, I don't know. You tell me. Yeah. Okay. Um, this is an important day. Every day is an important day in this battle to uh, for Richard's remains. That's what this is. This is a battle to get Richard's remains. And as you see, we are standing with President Trump on this. We see the standard operating procedures clearly now that our agencies, our institutions have been infiltrated and they're being meddled with at the highest level. And so that's why you're not seeing true justice. You're seeing an unequal justice. Um, that's why you're not seeing anything get done when it comes to the election meddling. Uh, and in Richard's case, you can see the political persecution of Richard, of our family. It was very, very clear during 2021. I very clear because COVID was in full swing. These crimes against humanity, and we were not lockstepping to it. And so many people now. Um, I have. I do understand that Richard went missing when President Trump was uh, the president of the United States. I also know because I was at January 6th. I understand what was happening. I also saw um, the destruction of so many inner cities, burning and everything, and the media calling it peaceful protesting. Um, and I also like to listen to Catherine Austin Fitts, who was absolutely brilliant in her assessment. And well, she thought something is fishy here with the burning, this Antifa burning of inner cities. Let me go plot it. Let me plot it and compare it to what I have. And um, and she gave a an interview where she talked about President Trump's opportunity zones and said, "Isn't it odd that the burning of the inner cities were where uh, President Trump's opportunity zones were implemented? Isn't that odd? Is that just a coincidence? I don't think so." So the smaller businesses that were getting a chance, a tax-free chance of building their own private little business in a in the inner cities were getting burned down, right, by the Antifa, and they were calling it peaceful protests. And so I know about that. Uh, I did support President Trump because of his financials, because he actually has built things that are really amazing um, in the United States, but also in Europe and also in Asia, and not just one thing. And I'm sure all over because I posted up his financials and they were amazing. And so I thought, let's give him a chance. Absolutely. And they didn't like that because he was a peacemaker, a peacemaker. And since I'm very familiar with the DoD, the Department of Defense, I understand that that is not good for their business. That's not good for their business and the contractor's business to be at peace, you see. And there's not that much money to be made when you're at peace, when you're in the business of making war and contracting out everything that you need for war. And so I did understand that. And I um, have been keeping my eye on the way they have lied about him and mistreated him. And especially in 2020 when Richard went missing and how they have lied about him. Y'all, they lied so much about our son. It was it was so over the top that we absolutely knew they were lying because they just went to the extreme. They're just so bold and brazen. They think they can get away with the insanity, you know? And we didn't believe them. We didn't believe them because it was just too insane. And they did not tell us that Richard was a whistleblower. Okay? They did not tell us that Richard was a whistleblower, that he had sex videos that he turned in, that he turned in information to the Child Protective Services, that he turned in information to the Criminal Investigative Division, where Special Agent Tavita Nusa worked. And we have been told by a lead that Tavita Nusa, who was uh, married, but that doesn't stop him. That doesn't stop him from engaging in a sexual relationship with Leilani Hart, also married, also married, and that it's just not a big deal at all when in your household, your several, your members of your household are raping a 7-year-old in your master bedroom or engaged in incestual relationships, especially when they're active duty in the military, like Dallas Hart was, and that you have child porn. So the messing around while you're married is really no big deal to them. It's a big deal to us because it's then the betrayal, just like the military has betrayed us, just like so many of these flatterers would come in to find Richard Halliday and try to flatter you and say that they love you and they love Richard, and yet they will turn on a dime and stab you in the back, um, and uh, and then blame it on not agreeing with us or something. And it's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? We're not clones, and we do know Richard, and so we have a different point of view. We're not going to go along with the smear campaign that was launched on him from the guard mount, from the military police guard mount there at Fort Bliss. We're not going to um, believe what they're saying when it's so insane and they don't have any proof. Um, let's look at what happened to Richard. And then we find out he's a whistleblower, and we're like, oh, well, okay. Then we find out that the field grade Article 15 is for what? For what? For nothing. Then it says, oh, well, it must be for retaliation for the whistleblowing. And then the Gomar retaliation for the whistleblowing because nothing else makes sense um, uh, when you're looking at all the information. And um, then you have FBI man coming into the picture who is the father-in-law of Lieutenant Colonel Bugado of the G3, and he says he's with the FBI. And we're not getting any reaction from finding out who he is, Nadal Baim, um, when the FBI is saying that they found Richard's remains in Mexico. And then with the lead, we get an autopsy report from Mexico. We get others too. And we get this confusion from a cashier while they're looking in 5 places for Richard. And we're like, yes, because now we understand with the autopsies that they dismembered our son, that they brutally dismembered, just like they did Enrique Roman Martinez, just like they did Vanessa Guillen, just like they brutally murdered Austin Hawk. Um, and they're so callous. They don't even tell us that Richard is a whistleblower. We have to find that out. And then they keep from us what the information, what he was reporting. So we put in a FOIA for the Child Protective Service complaint. We've asked Quantico for and also CID for Richard's complaints, and they skirt around it. They ignore. Well, that's negligence. That's derelict. That's tampering. Um, that is a botched investigation, and so now Richard has been put into cold case. And what did they do? They made him a yellow Interpol. This is in September of 2020. That makes sense when you think that they found body parts, um, because otherwise he would be uh, a federal criminal. He would be a deserter. And in September, I'm talking about in September of 2020, and then that would equal a warrant, and that would equal a red Interpol and an urgency to find him. And the thing that we asked all the time is, why isn't there any urgency? And now we understand why, because they already had Richard's remains, and they are hiding Richard's remains from us. That's why they made him a yellow Interpol. Died while missing. They don't have to give us the remains. And then, to really confuse people, but if you understand his remains were found and he's died while missing, they promoted Richard twice while in cold case. They promoted him twice while in cold case, and that is in December of 2022, and then again a few months later, 4 months later to be exact, April of 2023. And that all makes sense if you know that they found Richard's remains. And FBI man absolutely could tell us, because he is the father in law of Lieutenant Colonel Bugado in the G3 of the 32nd ATCOM. But he's no longer there. He's no longer there because, um, yeah, that's because his father in law, um, FBI man, Nadal Baim, uh, exposed what was going on in the G3, the heartbeat of 32nd ATCOM, the heartbeat, the operations, exposed what was going on in the military right there at Fort Bliss. And yeah, that is pretty clear. I'm trying to see there, that might be better. Pretty clear, makes sense what's going on. Okay, so I am going to, Anicia, thank you so much. Prayers for your family. Thank you so much. Okay, so big news today. Again, every day seems to be big news. We are reaching out to Norma Torres. She's a representative from Chino, California. Chino is where Enrique Roman Martinez is from. Also, Austin Hawk is from. And because of those cases, we are reaching out to her to do oversight um, for the um, cold case unit there in Quantico, because she has oversight. That is her. She's the one that organized this switch of cold case, the whole restructuring of CID, so that there would not be Vanessa Guillen's and Enrique Roman Martinez cases, Austin Hawk cases, Caleb Smither cases, but that there would be justice in the military crimes cases. And so, we're reaching out to her. And I want to make it very clear that when when we were searched in September of 2020, um, when our home was searched, and they cannot provide us with a warrant for that, now this has become our inquiry to so much of these files. What that has done is made us a victim along with Richard. And that gives us a lot of rights because our rights were violated. Our civil rights were violated because of this warrantless search on our home. Um, and so now we don't have to stand in line like Beltry wanted us to. Um, we have rights and we need to know what the warrants are and many other different questions about what has happened because I think we were lied about the warrants. I'm hearing that there were 15 warrants. They never told us 15 warrants. They always told us 5 warrants. And if it wasn't for the search of our home, if it wasn't for the arrest of Richard, what were these warrants for? Because they cannot produce for us a warrant. And this is a very big deal, but I think it will shed a lot of light. There's the stars in their course fought against Sisera. You might not understand why you're being searched, what's going on, and how that's going to help you later on. But right now, in Richard's case, being a victim along with Richard is going to afford us rights that we will get information to help us look for Richard, to help us look for Richard's remains. This is bringing home Richard's remains, is what we're doing right now. So, where there's lots going on behind the scenes, we also did reach out to Tony Gonzalez because he reached out to us. So we responded to him. And, we're so transparent. We're letting everyone know because behind the scenes, I'm going to tell you, there is a concerted effort to contact the people that we're contacting, to contact witnesses that are being retaliated against, to retaliate against them more, or anyone that's helping us to retaliate against them. The bullying is real, y'all, and I have very close friends, even from Ireland, that were so bullied that they can't really come on and help us because they don't want any part of all the bullying. And that's what the bullying is for. That's what the psyops are for, to mess with people's brains, to make them think that Richard is some kind of quintessential criminal, like they did. They hypnotized Anthony Swafford, the military police, right there on Fort Bliss, to think that Richard wasn't worthy to find. And with all these smear campaigns, and they do that, and then they take a witness and they retaliate. And our prime witness has been retaliated against, and the CID doesn't even care. They're neglecting um, that information that our prime witness was retaliated against. Um, then also, the CID, even at Quantico, is demanding leads from us. Why? That puts our safety at risk, right? And they still haven't visited the crime scene. So this is really important complaints here that we're making because this unit was specially made. The cold case unit in Quantico was specially made so that uh, military crimes would be investigated properly, and yet they're ignoring internal affairs complaints or to hand it over to internal affairs. They are uh, ignoring the conflicts of interest between Lalani Hart and Tavita Nusa. And like I said, and I probably got sidetracked, but Tavita Nusa, we have heard that he was assigned Richards as a victim's advocate for Richard's whistleblowing, and they didn't tell us that, and that would explain so much of why he had access to Richard's file, that he could leak it out to Lalani Hart to use to fortify her complaints and her targeting of her husband and her confession in this, her confession that was um, notarized about this 7-year-old being sexually assaulted in her house in the master bedroom. Um, the confession that her son, First Lieutenant Dallas Hart, who we maintain is Richard's platoon leader at the time, engaged in um, an incestual affair. Was that what Richard was reporting? Um, it could be several different things. And we're thinking it was definitely some equipment smuggling, weapon smuggling, the cooking of books, and also child sex pornography, child sex trafficking. Maybe Richard was reporting this rape of the 7-year old. Um, and, you know, so this confession of Leilani Hart is very important part of this, along with FBI man who says the FBI found Richard's remains in Juarez, Mexico. And we contacted the State Department, our special agent contact there, and he confirmed that the FBI were indeed in a foreign country looking for the remains of Richard Halliday, which did they get permission from Mexico to do that? That's that's the big deal because this is so botched that they have even failed the Quantico CID to contact key witnesses. They are so negligent they even ignore our inquiries and communications, and they haven't even, like I said, visited the crime scene. Um, and I don't know if they were on a prolonged vacation because you see, this whole cold case unit is not a normal cold case unit. It was put into place to investigate military crimes so that you didn't have another Vanessa Guillen, so that you didn't have another Enrique Roman Martinez. That's what it was put in there. And Richard is the very first Vanessa Guillen absent soldier. And so they, you know, um, why aren't they doing anything? For 15 months, there was inactivity, even though we had a witness come forth that Richard's file was being leaked. So to be in this situation, okay, for Team Find Richard Halliday to be in this situation where we have maintained our numbers and even grew our numbers on TikTok, on Facebook, to make people aware of Richard's case is just a testimony in itself of all the help that we have been getting, and we really love you for that. So please be our PAO, be our public affairs officer, be our media, and share this and talk about it because it's very important. It's about saving our country. It's that big at this point because we have to expose um, the negligence and the dereliction and the corruption within the DOD and the DOJ that is going on, definitely, and other, also in Congress. Um, so thank you so much for doing that, um, sharing so much, and pray for Norma Torres. Pray for Tony Gonzalez that they will do the right thing. And if you'd like to also write a letter to them, an email to them, um, that would be a huge help. You could even send a fax to them. That would be a huge help to say, find Richard Halliday. That's all you have to really write on there is find Richard Halliday. Why is there so much corruption? Why did they say, oh, that Dollar General man, that FBI man, he is, he's just some guy. He's not just some guy. So, reaching out to more and more people and filing, uh, uh, you know, every day we're filing more paperwork to find, somewhere someone will do something. And if not, then we have laid the foundation for a bigger event later. That's what's going on. So, with Taurus, her developing this cold case unit and us letting her know that there has been um, not the outcome that she was hoping for, then we'll see. Um, we'll see if she helps us. We'll see. But she's from Chino, California, which is interesting because that's where Austin Hawke's from, and that's also where Enrique Roman Martinez was from. So, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer it at this time. Thank you, Anicia. Okay. So, the warrant issue, the civil rights issue, I wanted to cover that. I wanted to cover Trump on this. Absolutely. That's very, very important. I also, the TikTok is doing well. So if you're on TikTok, if you can share the TikToks, that would be a huge help. And we're going through the timeline. And, here we're finding out who FBI man is, and we still don't know that Richard was a whistleblower at that time. And so things didn't make sense to us. But when you know that he's a whistleblower and you know that Dallas Hart, um, well, if you allege that Dallas Hart is a platoon leader for Richard, then everything makes sense, right? Everything. And yeah, so we just are very, very grateful that you can spread that information to help find Richard and get us answers, because really it is about the public awareness that will get us the answers to our questions. So thank you so much. God bless you. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing. I know this was kind of quick today. That's a good thing because that leaves uh, yeah, that makes it more shareable, right? More shareable. Okay, God bless you.